We're in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, just two verses this morning, 12 and 13. 1 Corinthians 10, 12 and 13. Well, I have good news for you. You are not that special. Now, this might feel a little strange to you. Of course, in the modern day, we're not accustomed to hearing that we are not that special. We're much more accustomed to hearing that we are like snowflakes in a blizzard, each one a little different, each one carrying its own little gift to the world, each one special. Go to your local library, and you will find the message there. Go to your local Sunday school, you will find it there too. I found a song this week at a pretty popular Bible song website. It's called, of all things, I'm Special. I'm not going to sing it for you, but I will read you the words. I am special. There's only one of me. I am special, an original masterpiece. I have brown eyes. I have blue. I am tall. I'm 4'2". I'm special, 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 special. That's me. Well, of course, there's a way in which this is right? I don't think much of the poetry. I'm not hoping that you're going to take this home and read it to your kids, grandkids, or dogs, any of it. But it's not all wrong, is it? I mean, the truth is that there is something unique about each one of us. We do come in different shapes, different sizes. We do have different personalities, different backgrounds. We do have different abilities. We do have different disabilities. We are diverse. There are 6 of us in my family. We talk about this all the time around the dinner table. There's 6 of us. Some of us are very emotional. Guess which ones? And some of us are very logical. Some of us are big talkers. Some of us are quiet. Some of us are wild and crazy, and others of us are kind of calm, cool, and collected. Some of us are like mom. Some of us are like dad. Some of us are like we don't know yet who. And I'm just talking now about 6 people in one family. And if you extend that conversation across all the different families, it really is true. The snowflake analogy is actually right. There are a lot of us, and we are a little different each one. And yes, that is kind of amazing. So why then do I say you're not that special? Not because you're not special in any sense, but because you're not special in every sense. That's why I use the word that, as in, it's not that deep. You're not that special. That is, you're not the only one who is smart with math, or English, or music, or you could turn it around. You're not the only one who struggles with math, or English, or music. You're not the only one who likes sunsets, or well-cooked meat. You are not the only one who likes sports. For that matter, neither are you the only one who has been hurt by someone who mattered to you, someone you trusted. You are not the only one who is afraid. And I say this not to say that your gifts or your experience or you don't matter. They do. You do. But what I'm doing here is trying to correct a kind of thing that's happened in our culture. And in our culture, what has happened is that we have overemphasized one truth to the neglect of another truth. So all the time, what's going on is we're pointing out all the time only the things that make us different rather than the things that make us the same. Consider the snowflake analogy. It's true that every snowflake is a little different. And yes, that is amazing. But at the same time, every snowflake, okay, you ready for this? Every snowflake is still a snowflake. It's a little crystal of cold water, just like all the other little crystals of cold water in the world. The problem with overemphasizing our differences is this: we begin to feel alone. We say, you could not possibly understand me. I'm ADHD. I'm neurodivergent. We say, I could not possibly relate to her because she has like 1 million kids. We say, what am I supposed to say to him? We have nothing in common. Do we not say these things? And so there's a dark side of being special. The dark side of being special is that you also are alone. Monsters are special too. In our worst moments, we sometimes start to wonder, is my struggle special? Am I all alone in the way that I'm wrestling with this thing and wrestling with this thing? Am I the only one who struggles this way? And sometimes that means we don't really want to be special. We would like to be normal. Now, of course, after the fall, a certain level of loneliness is in fact normal. Since sin has entered the world, and sin didn't just enter the world out there, sin entered us. And so we have, since that time, been separated from God and from one another, and even to some degree from ourselves since that time. Therefore, there are certain feelings we don't know how to share. There are certain feelings that we don't even have words for. Proverbs 14:10 gives voice to this experience. It says this, "The heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy." The heart knows its own bitterness. So do other people understand our pain easily? In many ways we have to say no. Do other people understand our joy? Probably more often, sometimes. But even then, as we look back on our experience, we don't often feel fully seen or understood. Not fully, not completely. My point is this: if we insist on being special in every way, we will make this feeling of loneliness worse. If we make ourselves special and insist on being special in every single way, we will make this profound modern feeling of loneliness, we will make it worse. Some of it is normal. Some of it we're not going to get away from. But these days, I suspect that most of us are a lot lonelier than we need to be. And that is at least in part because we rehearse this lie over and over and over again. This is the lie. They could not possibly understand. They could not possibly understand. If I said what I need to say, they could not understand. Today we're in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. Paul's going to cheer us up by telling us, you're not that special. No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. Therefore, when you are tempted, don't isolate. Don't find a little dark room to be in all by yourself. This is the place where I get to just be me. Instead, open up the doors, open up the windows, and rebuke the lie. Look to God, look up to God, look out to others, because they actually understand a lot more than you tend to think. You're not that special. Come with me now to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. 1 Corinthians 10, starting in verse 12. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. Why is it good news that I'm not that special? Well, if I'm not that special, I'm also not that alone. That's going to break down into 2 points this morning. We can kind of know ahead of time the way to stand and the way to fall. The way for us all to fall is pride. The way for us all to stand is trust. The way for us all to fall is pride. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 12, therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. The other day I went fishing with my boys. I drove up to a place in Shirley where I take a four-wheeling trail for a couple of miles. After a couple of miles, there's a certain place where we can park and we can hike down and we can catch native brook trout beside a waterfall. And no, I won't tell you where it is. And I have taken this four-wheeling trail many times. I know its particularities. I know where it curves. I know where it dips. In other words, I was speeding down this road like a man running from the police. And suddenly the road dipped where I expected a curve. I mean, it really dipped. and I was really expecting a curve. And the road surface apparently has been washed away by some kind of storm, and so it dipped down 2 full feet. And I didn't really see the dip until I was midair. I think I could describe the landing as a little rough. Yeah. When we finally stopped and we gathered our stuff up, and we gathered ourselves up, we kind of took a moment to breathe. And it was at this moment I remembered an old proverb. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a dip in the road. You know, I thought I knew this road so well that I didn't need to be careful. I was wrong. Remember what we have seen again and again in this book of 1 Corinthians. Paul's speaking to a particularly gifted church. They're gifted with wisdom, they're gifted with intelligence, they're gifted with speaking, they're gifted with teaching, they're gifted with power to do miracles in the Holy Spirit. The church is gifted. The church is also proud. And this is why they're fighting all the time. In order to see who's the best, you got to have a competitive spirit. And that's why they're dismissive of Paul and Paul's ministry, because they could do it better. And they're always looking around in order to look down their noses at others. That's what's going on. We've seen it again and again throughout this book of 1 Corinthians. In the immediate context, in 1 Corinthians 10, what we've been seeing is that what they're doing is they're looking down their noses at the people in the Old Testament. We saw this last week. The people in the Old Testament didn't have, they thought, a kind of baptism. The people in the Old Testament, they didn't think had a kind of communion. And Paul actually says, oh, yes, they did. They did have a kind of baptism. Yes, they did have a kind of communion. You're in the same position as they are, and you're actually doing the same things, making the same mistakes as them. And that's why he says, therefore let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. Thinking that you're above the mess is a great way to make a mess. These days, many of us are looking for a place to stand. We're looking for a way to be confident. We're looking for a way to be strong. We're tired of being confused. We're tired of feeling afraid. We are like Archimedes, who said, give me a fulcrum, a long enough lever, and a place to stand, and I will move the world. A place to stand is what the gospel offers us, right? You might remember this from Matthew chapter 7. Everyone who hears these words of mine, Jesus says, and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against the house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. So this is one of the gifts of the gospel, right? This is one of the things that we celebrate. It gives us a place to stand in the midst of a storm. Now the question for us is this: in what way do we stand upon this rock? What is our attitude? This is an important question for us all. And I think it boils down to this. Do we think that the rock is Christ, or do we think that the rock is us? Well, while many of us are looking for confidence, many of us are also these days looking for genuine examples of humility, are we not? We want leaders who know how to take criticism. We want teachers who know how to take advice. We ourselves want to be that person who's humble enough to take criticism and advice. We want to be able to admit when we are wrong. We want to be able to be grateful instead of defensive when we get more than we deserve. And what this means is that we live with a certain kind of tension. We want to be strong, but not arrogant. We want to be humble, but not timid. And so we ask, in one way or another we ask, or at least we feel, this question: how much confidence is enough, and how much confidence is too much? How much is enough? How much is too much? The old Greek philosopher Aristotle actually asked the same question. His answer was what we call today the golden mean. For Aristotle, all virtues are placed on a perfect middle between two opposite vices. So you can think of timidity as not enough courage, and you can think of arrogance as too much. So what's the perfect middle? You know what it's called? Courage. Courage. Courage is when we act even though we're afraid. Courage is when we stand on the rock and we know profoundly that we are not the rock. That's courage. So please don't misunderstand. When Paul tells us here, hey, if you think you stand, take heed, he's not calling us to weakness. He's not calling us to some kind of second guessing all the time of ourselves so that we can't get anything done. What he's calling us to is really courage. He's calling us away from pride. Because pride is a great way to break your truck and your marriage and your kids, and your job, and your testimony. You know, we think that we know what we are doing, and so we just won't ask for help. We think we're above certain sins, and so we just refuse to be careful. And thus we fall into a hole. Oh, it dipped when I thought it was going to curve. People of God, please hear the good news. You're not that special. You are proud just like the rest of us. And just like the rest of us, that pride will in fact bring you down. Or as Ben Franklin used to say, even if you were humble, you should be proud of the fact. What do we do then if we are all in the same boat? If we think, I'm prideful, I'm prideful all the time, I'm wrestling with this, and I don't want it to take me down. What can we do? Well, don't give up confidence. Don't go limp. Don't act like the gospel is not, in fact, a rock. I think in a word I want to say this. Remember that you're not the rock. We can do here, I think, essentially what Paul says here in verse 12, which is this. Take heed. Take heed. Take heed. Pay attention. Don't go on autopilot. Don't go numb through drugs or drink or video games or any of the ways that you tend to go numb. Don't always assume that you're the one who's in the right. Don't paint, above all, do not paint for yourself a picture of your life that is not true. Instead, take heed. Let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. That's the first point. Well, if the way for us all to fall is pride, then what is the way for us to stand? The second point is this: the way for us all to stand is trust. Come now again to verse 13. No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man, and God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. You'll be able to stand up in it. Well, I remember talking to a lady one day at church. It was not this church. She was having a hard time. She was getting divorced. She was broke. Her kids were acting out, and she just found out that she was very sick. She said, I wish the Lord didn't think I could handle so much. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, the Bible says that God will never give you any more than you can handle, so I guess the Lord thinks I got pretty broad shoulders. So, of course, she was referring to this verse, right? For her, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, was a test of strength. If God gives you something hard, it means he thinks you can handle it, because he promised he would never give us something we couldn't handle. That is not true. That is a downright lie. I think I said that to her, but not as forcefully. God gives us all the time things, more things than we can handle. Cancer is more than we can handle. Betrayal is more than we can handle. Death and death of a loved one is more than we can handle. Anxiety is more than we can handle. And God sometimes, seems like often, gives us more than we can handle, so we would stop thinking so very much about all that we can handle and let him handle some things. In other words, this is not a test of strength, it is a test of faith. Yeah? It's not a test of strength, it's a test of faith. So if you make this verse about God giving you pain because I can take it, then you're abusing this verse. I think this is one of the greatest abuses of the verse, and very common, and very New England. What is more, what you're doing is not just abusing this verse, you're abusing the very character of God. God does not give you hard things so that you can take it, or because you can take it. He gives you hard things for your ultimate good and for His ultimate glory. Well, what this verse is about then is not trials, it's about temptation. It is true that in the Greek, the word for trials and the word for temptation, it's the same word. That does not mean that trials and temptations are the same. Trials have to do with pain. Temptation has to do with sin. The reason that they're related is that pain often tempts us to sin. Yes? Pain often tempts us to sin. But in this context, Paul's clearly talking about the sin part of it. The verse is about temptation. And what he's saying here then is two things. First, when you are tempted, you are not alone. And two, when you are tempted, did you know that God was working on the other side of this to making you a way out, a way of escape? When you're tempted, you're not alone. The temptation may happen when you're alone. Very often, temptation does happen when you're alone. That temptation, however, is not brand new, right? Lots of people all over the world since the beginning of time have experienced this temptation. Your temptation to lust is not special. Your temptation to take revenge or to seethe in bitterness is not special. Your temptation to give up the faith and just like chuck it in the bin, I'm tired of this, that's not special either. It's common. It's common to us all. And so when you're tempted, whatever the temptation is, you know what it means? It means you're one of us. Welcome to the club. Get in line. That's what that means. You too are just another snowflake. Now, I know that there's going to be some piece of the temptation that's unique to you. I know that some things are, some temptations, they get complicated, don't they? Of course they do. Not every trigger point is going to be the same for us all. There's going to be some part of your story that comes into the mood that comes over you that will be something unique to you. I'm not denying any of that. What I'm denying is that you have invented somehow, think of it, that you've invented lust, anger, or despair. You're not that special. And what this means is that you're not alone. Unless, of course, you isolate yourself. Even if you do isolate yourself, know this, God is working for you a way of escape. No temptation has overtaken you, but such is common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation to provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it. When you are tempted, look for the escape hatch. Look for the way out. And I want to say this pastorally. What's the most common way that we find the way out when we're in temptation? Here it is. Calling for help to other people. Calling for help from other people. Now, I know there's lots of ways where God protects us. A lot of us have stories of things like this. Sometimes God brings interruptions, right? We're about to sin, and the smoke alarm goes off. Or we're about to sin, and somebody knocks on the door. Or we're about to sin, and we mean to for real this time, and suddenly we have a sense of fear, or we're grossed out by our own stuff. That's an experience that a lot of us will have, and we can talk about. Most often in the life of the ordinary Christian, the way that God brings us a way of escape out of temptation is through the help of other Christians, not by white-knuckling it, but by the help of calling out for the help of other Christians. If what happens so often is that we are afraid that they will not understand, and lo and behold, they understood. We're afraid that they will come and they will judge us. And instead they said, oh yeah, I worry about that too. Oh, I wrestle with that too. And they show us mercy. We have pictures in our minds that think that other people are completely other, completely different from us, and lo and behold, they're just one of us too. We're afraid that they're going to walk away, and instead they come in close. We thought that it wouldn't help, and it helped. You've experienced this, yes? Thank you. The power of temptation grows in isolation. You know this? The power of temptation grows in isolation. It breaks in the power of community. So please look to others and look to God when you are tempted. Please do not isolate. Please do not pretend that you're a monster. You're one of us, and God will make a way of escape. If you keep it secret, it will not stay safe. It will not behave better next time. If you keep it secret, it will not stay safe. Do instead what the book of James tells us to do, which is confess your sins to one another. Pray for one another so that you may be healed. On a Sunday after church, we do this every Sunday. We will pray for you. Come. And also, finally, this. Not only are you not alone in your temptation, not only is God the Father himself working a way of escape for you, but Jesus, the Son of God, is also working on your behalf. He's already worked on your behalf on the cross. He takes your sin upon him so that it need not weigh you down and drown you. But that's not all he has done. Even right now, he sits at the right hand of God the Father. He advocates for us. He continues to help us. You're not alone. So I finish with what the call of worship was this morning, which was Hebrews chapter 4. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. So reach out. Reach out in times of temptation. Reach out to others and reach out to God. Because the way for us all to fall is pride, and the way for us all to stand is trust. I invite you to stand up and to sing the doxology. Praise God.